Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha, and again I welcome you to my channel. I'm so grateful that you're here, listening, subscribing, hopefully liking the comments and the content. And in this one I wanted to kind of continue in the vein of speaking about love, self-love, love, and speaking a little bit about how love has this weird thing that comes with it. As human beings, we do this to ourselves. No one does it to us. We're so good at stressing ourselves out, don't you think? Or torturing ourselves, or whatever you want to call it. But I was speaking to my mom recently about this actually. And we were just sitting around, I'm having breakfast and she's having coffee. And I love that time of the morning where I can just sit and be with her for a bit. We just have a couple of conversations about this or that, nothing important, but it's so precious. Plain. It sounds like a whale that's going, doing that whale sounds like in the ocean. Anyways, I'm losing my mind. And I love that time, so I usually sit down with her, and sometimes she starts complaining because she's a little bit of a complainer, and I've learned to love that about her. So usually I just make a joke out of it, but she was saying something about how no one loves her, and she loves everyone a lot, and she gives a lot, and that's one of her main refrains about other people is that she gives a lot and she doesn't get anything back in return. And I was telling her, I was learning about love, of course, and I'm like, Mom, love isn't about what you receive. You just give. I mean, the point of love is that it's not like, oh, I've given you 10 units of love today, so give me 10 units of love back today, or at least 5 units, and then you can give me 5 units tomorrow. But if I give more units tomorrow, then you have to kind of compensate me for that as well. So it's not like a mathematical calculation or an equation where you're sitting there and writing everything down, but all right, yeah, I did that for you. Okay, cool. That's 10 units, I think. Or it could be 11. All right, I'll round it down. That's not the point of it, right? Unfortunately, a lot of us, not just my mom. My mom is just one of those people who does it. I do this as well in relationships where I'll be like, all right, so I'm a very loving person and I've given you these many units of love. I've done this for you today or yesterday. But what did you do for me today or yesterday? You didn't do anything. And does that mean that you don't love me? What is this? What kind of imbalanced relationship is this? And then usually my relationships fall apart for this exact reason, because I'm calculating the units of love I've given them in some random fashion, because how do you even calculate love? And they don't understand that I'm calculating this, and they don't understand that they have to give back a certain unit of love to me in order for me to feel loved. Of course, I never had that conversation with them. So they don't even know that I'm doing this kind of calculation, but they know that I'm resenting them and angry with them for some random reason. And they're trying to make me happy, but nothing does it because they don't know what I'm doing in my head. I'm sure you guys have done this before in your relationships, hopefully. Because it would be sad if I was the only one doing it. So we do this calculation in our head and we come up short. Or the other person comes up short. And so in general, the main point of love becomes, all right, I'm short 1 unit, so I need to do something in order to make sure that I am deserving of love, of course. Because if they gave me 10 units and I only gave them 9, how dare I? What's wrong with me? Shame on me. I should be doing something back in return. And so it becomes very much a game of give and take where it's a finite game. It's not like you're running on an infinite unconditional kind of love where you just give without any expectation of return. So you might get it back, you might not get it back, and it becomes sort of like a business relationship where it's an exchange, and it's not fun anymore. I know that whenever I get into that mode of all right, I'm calculating things out, and I'm like, and I do this with friends as well. I do it with everyone that I meet. So it's not just relationships, and I'm trying not to do that anymore, really. That's why I'm doing this video. But so I do this, and I notice that I become less fun. I notice myself becoming less loving. I notice myself having less fun in the relationship. I notice myself wanting to be out of the relationship because it becomes too difficult. It's too calculative, it's too tangible, it's too boring, of course, right? And so I just want out. And I was the one who created that problem for myself. I was the one who started calculating. I didn't have to, right? No one told me to. They weren't telling me, yeah, you know, I gave you these many units yesterday and you didn't. They did not say that. And in most cases, probably they weren't even doing that kind of calculation. It was just me sitting there doing this kind of random calculation in my head. And so as I was talking to my mother, I was telling her about this, you know, that I learned this, and it's supposed to be unconditional, and you give, and you give love, but you don't expect anything in return. And that non-expectation results in the fact that, yeah, you get a lot back, but because you don't expect anything, all of that is just bounty, it's just bonus, it's just awesome. But when you have an expectation, usually what you get doesn't actually come close to your expectation. Usually it never comes close, and you're always disappointed. And you're always sitting there thinking, what's the point of being in a relationship? I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not getting what I gave back. I want to be in a different relationship where I get what I give. And the equation is always in your head kind of playing out. Like, I gave these many units. Okay, they did this. Okay, I did that. Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, that works out. As I said, it becomes not that fun. And it sucks the life out of the relationship, whatever relationship it might be. As I said, I've done this many times, and I've noticed slowly but surely that life and the joy being sucked out of the relationship. And in my head, I'm thinking, why are you doing this? But I keep on doing it. Of course, I'm doing this video because I'm hoping I'm going to learn. I don't do it as often as before, thankfully, but I'm still a terrible person for that. And so my mom said to me, she's like, oh, but the only thing I really want back in return is respect. I don't want anything else. Well, that's a falsehood, obviously, because I know it's not true. But if that is even the case, if she was actually telling the truth and she's like, all right, yeah, I only want respect in return, then what do they have to do in order to show that they've respected her? And that's, again, the problem, right? Because in her head, it might be that they have to do 10 of these weird things in order to show respect, whereas the other person has no idea that she has this list. So they're doing these other things to show her respect, but because it's not equal to the list that she has in her head, she feels unloved, right? And so this mismatch, that's basically love languages problem as well. Like when you have different love languages, it's the mismatch that causes problems. You're thinking, all right, so respect to me is that if they sit down with me and ask me how my day went and wash the dishes and then cook the dinner, you know, that might be what they're thinking. But the other person's thinking, all right, respect to me is if they go out grocery shopping with me and then we make dinner together and then we sit down and watch a movie together. Two completely different definitions of respect. Not one isn't more right than the other, of course, because they're just individual definitions of respect. But because of that mismatch, the two people are sitting there thinking, that person doesn't love me, and the other person's like, I don't think they love me. Because also they've never spoken about this. If they just sat down and said, you know, I don't feel like you love me, and the other person's like, but what? Why? I love you. And they could say, well, you know, for me it's about respect, and for me respect means these three things, and you never do that. And the other person's like, but I thought respect meant these three things, and I do that for you. And so that mismatch causes obviously a lot of relationships to fall apart. One of the things I've noticed in my parents' relationship is that there's a big mismatch in love languages. And it causes a lot of strife in their relationship. And it's kind of interesting to watch from the outside in, because I've tried to explain it to them, but they don't see it. Also because they've been married for 40 plus years. So after a while, you're like, you don't see anything anymore clearly, right? There's a lot of resentment built up and a lot of frustration. And so everything is just colored by past resentment, past frustration. But they have completely different definitions of a lot of different things, but specifically love. And for my mom, as I said, it's acts of service, right? For my dad, it's financial support and financial independence. And so in my dad's head, he loves my mother if he makes sure that they have enough money and they don't have to worry about anything until they retire or die. And in mom's case, it's acts of service. So she's like, well, you should do things in the house. Like, you're just sitting around all the time on your computer trying to make money. Now, of course, as I said, there's a mismatch. And so both sides feel unloved because they don't understand that the other side is just loving them in their own way. And they need to have that conversation, of course, but they never had that conversation, and I don't know if they'll ever have that conversation. In general, though, at least I can learn from it, and hopefully you can learn from it as well, that the conversation needs to be had, but also that love isn't supposed to be about an exchange. I know that in the world right now, everything seems to be like a business exchange, like you give me 10 units and I give you 5 and this free gift or something. But as I said, it just sucks the joy out of every relationship. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could just be a friendship. And in a lot of cases, friendships turn into these business exchanges as well, where, oh, you did this for me, all right, I'll do that for you. And that's a perfect friendship for some people. I don't know much about love. As I've said, I'm still learning, and I'm still growing as a person who is trying to understand love in general. But these are some of the things I wanted to share with you on this particular subject. The mismatch particularly, though, is a very important thing for you to remember. And if you are in a partner relationship, or any kind of relationship, obviously, it's a good thing to have that conversation. I've asked a lot of the people in my life, what is your love language? Or what does this mean to you? And how can I show you that I love you? And that it really helps, because in my head I was like, all right, I love them and I'm showing them I love them, but not really, right? They weren't actually feeling it. So hopefully this makes sense. I'm so grateful that you're watching my videos, hopefully liking them. Again, I'm so grateful for your support, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.